tonight's topic is liberalism. What do we really know?
Oh, interesting.
Yes. What do you guys think of when anyone says liberalism? What comes to mind?
Moderate politics.
Moderate politics, okay.
Yeah.
So
Neither
when
left
you say
nor right.
okay, so that's all right. So when you say neither left nor right, are you meaning what is referred to as central?
Yes,
or
more
centrist?
central politics, and much more softer and less judgmental politics.
Okay.
Just like maybe for me, just like the individual, just focus, the individual more than, and then like the worth of the individual, maybe that kind of thing.
What do you mean?
Like I think like if like a liberal thinks about the rights of the human first, and things like like maybe the liberty and the freedoms of the individual, like primary. That's the first thing when I think of.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't. It's basically anything. Yeah, I don't know. It's big. Yeah.
On the negative side, I think liberalism could mean that anything goes. It doesn't have kind of very fixed limits on the left or the right. That's, I think, one of the way I understand it, that it's not, has got a lot of rules.
Okay, so I think Lord Justice in the chat has said freedoms, and I think that ties in with what you're both saying there, that it's very freeing, and sometimes possibly, Nagari, thinking that it might go a bit too far with freeing.
Yes, too far free. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, that's generally what I think, what comes to my mind, right? Liberalism, the word liberal, it's to do with liberty. That's what comes in my mind. And, liberty is freedom. Okay. And instantly that gets the green tick in my head. It's like, oh, that's good. That gets the green light. Freedom. Yes, I like that. So that's okay. But then what I've seen over the years has me think it's beyond freedom. It's pretty wild. But I'm interested in learning what it actually is, because I'm just going off like what I think, what I'm assuming. And I've not really read about these sort of things. So I thought, why don't we have a look into it? Because there's a lot of people who seem to think that being liberal is a good thing, and so they embrace it, and then I don't see good behaviours coming from them. So I wonder if they have a different idea of what it is to be liberal than what I have. Do they have it right? Do I have it right? Have we all got it wrong?
Yeah. Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, sorry, Ravioli, go ahead.
No, I just think I know, like, what it meant, say 200 years ago or 250 years different to now. I reckon, I think the definition's changed.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe we should have a look at the history of it as well then.
Yeah, I think it's like, like now, you think like, say, like inequality and things, like a lot of modern liberals want to, eradicate things of that nature, which is a good thing. But then, they often want like more government, though, don't they? They want more tiers of government. They want larger governments, which is like if you then go to the old-fashioned definition, or like the more classical, they wouldn't be for that. So do you see how it's changed?
Right. Well, I think to be able to see that, we'll have to have a look at the old and the new, because I haven't really read into it. I've just like looked at what I've seen going on during my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I don't really know the history of it. I mean, I've heard people talk about this, that, and the other, but I'm keeping that to the back of my mind because I'm thinking, no, we need to explore this properly. Everyone seems to have their own narrative and their own spin on things. So I thought, why not bring it to the explorers on our exploration? So I've done a little DuckDuckGo search. Said origin of liberalism, right? Just a basic search. And it's brought up a Wikipedia page, it's brought up Britannica, and then as it goes down, it goes into like university encyclopedic explanations of it. That's quite detailed. So I think to start off with, we've used Britannica before.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes it's a little bit woke, but it can be a good place to start for us to get a general grasp of it, and then we can dig deeper on what we think's right, what we think's not right, and so on and so forth, applying our critical thinking skills.
Can I just ask Lieutenant one thing before we do that? Just a quick question, like, because you know freedom of speech, because you know that's often talked right by everyone as a view on. So that is so that would be like sort of you know, a liberal would be very much, you know, kind of in the heart of that, right? Liberalism, they're like, you know, the freedom of the individual on that question of freedom of speech. I mean, that's something, you know.
Well, that's what I would assume, that liberals would be all for freedom of speech, because to be liberal is to be free and open and accepting. This is my assumptions. This is what comes to mind when I hear the word liberal.
Yeah.
You know, like I can apply butter to my bread liberally.
Yeah.
Right? I can be quite liberal with the butter. So that means like I'm not being shy, like I'm generous. Okay, so I'm allowing and I'm permitting, sort of thing. That's the kind of words that I associate with liberal. So I would assume that freedom of speech, which permits someone to say the wrong thing, make a mistake and be forgiven, you know, apologize and be forgiven, no big deal, because that's part of like human development. So I assume that a liberal would embrace that.
Yeah.
Would you?
I think so. I think, was it the guy who just said it's gone too far? Yeah, it's going too far.
You know, if you allow anybody to say anything they like and without any limits, then perhaps very ugly swearing language will be tolerated as well, and perhaps even. I'm just hypothesizing, you know. And perhaps even slandering people in their face or saying unpleasant things about them in their face. The thing is, they always, in everything which to do with human society, you have to have limits. Otherwise, if you don't, you know, it could go the other way, and people can speak in amazing flowery language without saying anything. You know, if you are going to be able to say anything you like, I think it will go chaotic. So, I mean, you have to have rules for everything somehow, I feel.
Well, yes and no, and I'll explain my position on that. Certainly in the UK, there is not one word that it is illegal to use, okay? Because we have this freedom of speech or freedom of expression thing, right? Words are sounds that we make. And so whether one likes the words or not, it's not the words that can be hurting you, sort of thing. It's just your preference, whether you like words or not. So I'm all for being able to use any word under the sun. However, and that's not a but, when it comes to behaviors and the context and how one is saying what one is saying, whether one is basically intent upon harming another or not, I find needs to be questioned. I wouldn't say criminalized, because there's grey areas there as well, but certainly for it to be, I think it's a good thing for things to be, for certain behaviors to be socially unacceptable. But the use of any word, no, because I could be telling a joke, I could just be letting someone know what's going on with me at the moment, someone who I feel quite free with, and I say, oh, I can't believe this, right?
Yeah.
And so I've used a word that someone doesn't like, but I didn't use it in a way of saying, F off, you're a nasty, you know? Like, I haven't really tried to harm anyone. I'm just trying to express myself and get something out. And I'm a bit frustrated and upset, and that's the only word that came to mind. So I said it. Okay? So that's where I think, yeah, like, that's why I think it's important that we should keep it in our system that there is not one word in this country that cannot be used, regardless of whether anyone deems it as a slur, as an insult, as a dirty word, or anything like that, right? Because there's a preference thing, there's what comes to mind, there's we are human beings, we all start off needing to develop, right? So we're not all born with the entire, none of us are born with the entire vocabulary in our minds ready to go, and we know not to say this word and to say that
How
word.
about,
you know?
How about the behavioral things rather than words?
Yes.
I mean, some people would constantly engage in backbiting and saying negative things about other people. You know, they might use kind of swear language as well, but it's not that. It's what it matters is the fact that they are constantly being negative and running other people down, and their behaviors down, being judgmental about other people behind their backs.
That's another thing about the beauty of this country and what has helped us become a leader in the world. Sorry, there's fire engines going past. We've become leaders in the world by being quite resilient. So when we grow up, there's a good saying in this country, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never harm me, right? So we grow up resilient to that. Everyone does it. It is a human thing. And as we grow up, we start to learn to deem it as socially unacceptable, but it's never criminalized because it's something people don't learn at the same time as others, right? So we still have to have that allowance for people to learn. We're always going to have the contentions, but we can learn and we can grow from that. And it keeps us all on our toes as we go through life. We can't, I think it's unrealistic to expect people to not express themselves. What if someone's just cheesed me off? And I don't hate them or anything. I don't want anything bad to come to them, but I'm just saying to me, mate, oh, what a fucking arsehole.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What should happen to me for that? Nothing. I just let off some steam. It's just, as the big nose of London would say, it's just hot air. It doesn't really mean anything. You're not that. So what? Just let it go over the top of your head like water off a duck's back sort of thing.
Well, I think if one indulges in it, in anything to excess, if somebody constantly being negative about other people, that harms them rather than other people. It makes their outlook on the world rather negative, because they're constantly looking for faults in other people, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that might open the door to bigger problems later as well.
Could be, yes. Yeah.
There's another thing here, Lieutenant. Can I read? And this guy in the chat called Outlaw King said,
Yes.
Slander is a crime in itself, though, even with real freedom of speech.
Yes. Now, when you look at slander in law, now obviously I'm not like quoting anything in front of me, so I'm totally paraphrasing. My understanding is that a slander charge can be brought about if you've had a negative impact on, I think it's like the income and the lifestyle and the work and all of that. It's not just someone calling someone names, it's where it's had a detrimental impact, like a significant detrimental impact on their life, including their job, their relationships, their living standards, and all the rest of it. So it's not just, oh, someone said this about me on the internet, so I'm going to sue. No, we are not.
Slander, doesn't it have to be actually a lie about what they say about the other person? It has to be a lie, something which they made up. No?
No, it doesn't have to be a lie. It could be, it's basically about deliberately trying to destroy their lives. You know, like the cancel culture. That's all slander, right?
Okay.
So it's about trying to get someone cancelled, so to speak.
It could be true, but saying it could affect their job. Is that what you're saying? It can be true, but just saying
it's like if you say something online that your employer might not like. Now, your employer under employment law shouldn't be taking what you say online and then determining to fire you or discipline you or anything like that at work. However, the fact that someone passed that on to your employer means they've set about to harm you. When, if say you've said something like threatening to harm someone, threatening to physically harm someone, they should immediately take that to the police, not to your employer, not to this, that, one and the other. Should just take it to the police, and that's the correct protocol. And then the police investigate, and then you either get done or you don't, right? And in that case, when it's a threat of violence or something, the police would act upon that if they saw that threat, there was some significance there, if, you know, depending on your temperament and all the rest of it, and whether there was a history of it and stuff like that, right? But it shouldn't be taken to your employer or to your wife or your husband or anything like that.
The Google says the action or crime of making a false spoken statement damaging to a person's reputation. So it has to be false, cannot be true what they've said.
Okay,
that's what Google says.
Is that Google saying about? Is that what Google says about UK law, or is it American?
No, well, generally in law it says slander. That's what slander is: make a false, damaging statement about someone.
It says here, slander in UK law refers to transient spoken defamation that causes serious harm to a person's or business's reputation. Unlike libel, permanent, slander usually requires proof of special damage, specifically financial loss.
So it's not. It's nothing to do with falsehood. It's just.
Well, it says in the UK law. This is Google again on, I think, the AI Google. It says definition: a false spoken statement made to a third party that lowers the claimant in the estimation of right-thinking members of society. And then it says serious harm requirement under the 2013 Act, Defamation Act 2013. For a statement to be defamatory, it must cause or be likely to cause, quote, serious harm to the claimant's reputation. For businesses, this often means proving significant financial losses.
That's right. Yeah. So it didn't mention anything about, did it? Did I miss that? Did it mention anything about it having to be false?
It says defenses
here.
It just read it. Valid defenses include truth. The statement is true, honest opinion, or privileged communication. Example, in Parliament or courts. It says here claims must be brought within 1 year of the statements being made as well. So you can't jump back to it, apparently.
Right. So you can defend yourself, but that doesn't mean you'd win. it's not slander just because it's false. It's slander because it can damage the reputation.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah,
and harm the financial situation. Yeah?
The third party that lowers the claimant in the estimation of right-thinking members of society. So yeah, that's
like, so it's got nothing to do with whether it's a true or false statement.
But yeah, I mean,
so the person who has slandered could say, well, it's the truth, but then the prosecution could say, hang on a minute, you did this deliberately to do this, that, and the other, to have a negative impact on this, that, and the other, when the correct course of action would have been to take that to the police or to confront the person yourself in private and blah, blah, blah. So then it can be proven that that was ill intent and it was slander.
I thought, Rupert, you read about in the beginning of the sentence, you said something about false.
Yeah, I mean, it says like, it just says like key aspects of slander law in the UK. This is Google again, AI. I mean, yeah, I can show you on the camera.
It's okay. Just read it. Just read it.
It says.
No, I can't see that. Just read it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, and then it says definition, right? A false spoken statement made to a third party that lowers the claimant in the estimation of right-thinking members of society, and then bullet point 2.
So a false statement, a false spoken statement.
Yeah, and then the second bullet point is the Defamation Act 2013. Under the Act, for a statement to be defamatory, it must cause or be likely to cause, quote, serious harm to the claimant's reputation.
Which means that the claimant would have to be deemed of good character for them to be able to be defamed in the first place.
Yeah. I think that's
so. True. If there was some lowlife that you spoke negatively of, they couldn't claim defamation because they haven't been deemed of good character anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. So, what's good character? Who's good or bad? Then, yeah, how do they?
And who was the judge of that? Yeah,
I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting when you see it says here damages and remedies. It says if successful, courts may award damages for financial loss, humiliation, and damage to reputation. Courts can also grant injunctions to stop further publication of defamatory statements.
Okay. Well, anyway, we don't want to look into that too much because we start going down that road. But there's been some interesting comments in the chat. We'll have a look at these before we then go on to Britannica. Where was it? Outlaw King said, getting rid of freedom. Where is it? I need to put this on screen. Getting rid of freedom of speech was the first thing all dictators and socialist governments get rid of, and modern-day liberals love limiting speech. I can't disagree with that because I've seen that from modern-day liberals or people who deem themselves as liberals, and possibly they're misusing the label when they're talking about themselves. I don't know. But yeah, I can't disagree with that statement.
Yep.
So, Smiler says 12,000 arrested between 2023 and 2025 for hurty words, highest figures in the world. Of those 12,000, 1,100 went to jail in the UK. I think there's Smiler's talking about there. So, wow, that's interesting. And I think regarding the taboo items of vocabulary that I was on about, Outlaw King says LTG plus there's multiple definitions to most swear words. The person can't foresee them interpreting it the wrong way. Correct? Just like you can't be responsible for someone else being offended just because you've used a certain word that they deem as offensive. Like, that's their preference. That's not the law. Do you know what I mean? And for it to be law, where the majority are supposed to have agreed on it, aren't they? So, yeah. Threatening to harm someone is a declaration of intent, says Outlaw.
Cool. Yeah.
And Tina said, what frees one oppresses another. There needs to be balance and fairness. Children are taught or learn what's okay and what's not. Successive governments want to over-regulate everything. But my problem with that is, well, when you're teaching children what's okay and what's not okay, has everyone agreed on what's okay and what's not okay? I mean, I'm a free speech absolutist, so I say you can use any word you like, and you need to express whatever it is you need to express.
Mm.
The problem is,
I'm more against like unhealthy behaviors, like being deliberately malicious, malevolent, nasty towards people. And I think that needs to be addressed, not with necessarily punishment at first, but something more holistic, a more holistic approach to that. Not everyone is raised with the same values, is raised with the same manners, courtesies, and all the rest of it. Not everyone thinks the same under this same roof of the UK.
I was going to say what you just said, values. Where do we get our values from? And I think traditionally our values, moral values or behavior values comes from religion, because that's where they seem to be talked about mainly in the past and even today. And they usually encourage good values. I mean, good behavior.
Yes and no with regards to religion, because not everything that is taught by religions turns out to be good. But certainly in the UK, our values and our morals and everything come from what's called the Holy Bible, and therefore what you might call the Christian text, but not necessarily from Christianity, the religion itself, because all of the different denominations have differences, and we've seen how some of the people in those religions have conducted themselves. And I dare say the vast majority of us don't agree with those. We don't deem those as good values. Like there's been some criminality in those religions, hasn't there? So
I actually mean from the Bible or from the text of the New Testament and the Old Testament. So moral values or behavioral values come basically from the text, and people have interpreted it in many different ways, and perhaps they've even used it wrongly to justify their own behavior in different times in history. But ultimately, the value system comes from the holy text of religions.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think all good comes from the holy prophets. Are the perfect examples.
Well, not necessarily from prophets, but from what's been written in the Bible.
I think their life,
right? And the Outlaw King says British values come from Jesus's teachings in the Bible. Okay, that's interesting.
Smooth moderator.